Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is my Q&A video, which I do every week, where I answer your questions. And every week, all you have to do is comment on the video, and I will answer your questions. I'm injured this week. I'm actually going to get a proper cast, actually. I broke my wrist, I think. I think it's broken. I'm going to get it x-rayed tomorrow. So if you see me with a cast, that's why. I went roller skating with my kids, and I took a pretty bad fall. So I kind of mangled my wrist. Okay, so first question, other than sprained wrist thing, or broken wrist, or whatever it is, comes from Coffee and Comics. I was looking at trying to decide where to start collecting something from the Golden Age. Now, this wasn't really a question, but I'm going to frame it as a question because I think it's actually a good question. How to get started collecting the Golden Age. So for me, what I got started in, the very first Golden Age books that I bought were EC Comics, because it was a title that I knew. I grew up liking the TV series and the movie series related to Tales of the Crypt, from the Crypt. So I, always wanted an EC book. So I bought like whatever EC book I could get, and one that I could afford. That was back in the 90s. So I think I paid like $30 for a mid-grade EC book back in the day. So that's how I got started. Just, having an interest in whatever, and getting a book that meets that interest. It doesn't have to be, some speculation book. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It's just go with, first of all, what you love, what you would be interested in. It's the same if you're buying modern comics. Like, you watch that Spider-Man movie or Batman movie, and you're like, hey, I kind of like those characters. Well, buy some modern book with those characters in it. It doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be anything that savvy in terms of the way you do it. Like, a lot of people try to go into it with this impression that they're going to be like, oh, okay, I gotta pick the next book that's going to be the next Action One or whatever book it is. With the Golden Age, there are still treasures to be found, but you don't have to go in it with that in mind. You can start, dipping your toes in and, discovering books from the Golden Age. So what I always do is I sort of, pick things based on things that I enjoy. So I enjoy Good Girl. I enjoy horror. I enjoy superheroes. And then I'll sort of discover which books kind of meet my interests. Another thing that you can do if you really want to get into the Golden Age and kind of discover Golden Age is buy affordable books first. And there's a lot of very affordable titles within the Golden Age. And the reason you buy affordable books first, it's sort of like a low risk, investment. And then with that, you kind of learn a bit. Like, I find with every book you buy, you learn a little something, like a little, oh, this was a good buy. This was a not such a good buy, or this was not such a good series, or there's better art by this artist that you liked, so there's things that you learn, I find, with every book that you buy. So I'm going to show you a few books, each in different genres, because I don't know what you like. It's more about discovering that for yourself, and then really collecting based on what your interests lie. Because generally, this is like they always say, collect what you love, and I always hate that. Actually, it sounds so cliched when they say collect what you love, but it's actually a very good cliche, because what happens is if you collect what you love, you'll enjoy the book, obviously, right? That's one. But you will generally, when you're interested in something or when you really love something, you will try to investigate it. You'll try to learn everything about it. When you're not as invested or not as interested in something, you generally will not do that level of investigation, and you'll make worse decisions because you don't have that knowledge. So that's why collect what you love is actually an annoying cliche because you hear it all the time, but it's also a very valid cliche. So let's get into it. First, I like the Goody Girls, and I'm going to show you a title that has good girls, but it's very affordable. It's Foremost Comics, and this one this is an example of one that I really liked. I don't think it's super valuable. I mean, it's like I bought it for like $10, $20, something like that. And it wasn't like a super expensive book. But I like judo. It has a judo cover. Has some good girls going on there. Beach scene. Yeah, it's fun stuff. So this is Foremost Comics. Very affordable Golden Age book. So it just gets you that taste of, the Golden Age. Might not be a title that you're going to be like, okay, I got to collect all of them. It might be just a title that gets your, dabbles into the Golden Age. So first thing to learn is what do you like in terms of good girl, if that's the way you want to go. Another route that a lot of people go, and another very affordable route, is cartoon characters like Woody Woodpecker. This is like a $5 to $10 book. And you can, it's an early Woody Woodpecker. This is from like the 40s. I forget when this is from, but in the 40s. You get, some classic characters and, fun stories. They're actually fun reads. Like, Andy Pandy is kind of cool character as well. And, you get to learn. That's another thing with every book you buy, you learn a bit. So you learn about these classic characters that might have not survived into the modern age. Like Andy Pandy, I haven't seen anything with him recently, but he was a major character in the Golden Age. So you learn just by picking up one book, you've learned a little bit about him and then some of the other characters along the side. So you never know. You never know what you can learn from spending $5 on a comic. Then if you're into the superheroes, well, I really liked Plastic Man. One of the first things I bought when I went to a comic book shop on my own was a Plastic Man comic. And this is a Golden Age Plastic Man comic. It's got a sci-fi cover, and it's kind of a cool one, but very affordable. This is like a $40 to $50 book. It's not super expensive, but it's got that classic cover. This is from the 50s. And just really fun stuff. This is 1954, actually. Just it gives you that taste of the Golden Age. And you start learning about, not just about Plastic Man, about his, Woozle Wuzzle, or I forget his name. It's some weird name like that. And just, you learn about the different characters, and it gives you a better sense. And then usually what I always do is I go down these rabbit holes. I learn about one character, and then I learn about the auxiliary characters, and then I try to look up where can I learn more about those characters. So I start learning about the different things. Another thing you can collect is specific artists, and that's very Golden Age way of collecting. A lot of people, when they collect Golden Age books, they collect specific artists like L.B. Cole, Matt Baker, Alex Schomburg, Rob Lubbers, Johnny Craig. There's like a bunch of major artists from the Golden Age that people collect. And one of them is, as I said, L.B. Cole. And there's affordable L.B. Cole books. So this is an affordable one because it's not good girl, it's not horror, which he's more known for. It's sports. And this is Smash Hit Sports Comics, number 1. So it's even the first issue of the whole thing. It's like a $30 to $40 book. Not that expensive. But it's one that gets you into the artist and learning about his art style and learning about other potential collectibles. So I like looking for these kind of books as well, where you buy something from an artist that is well recognized, but not a comic that he's well recognized for. So it's sort of like an underground one. This is to me a little bit of a treasure find, where you find these L.B. Cole ones that are off genre for him, and just really cool books. So So I like LB Cool a lot. All right, so that's that one. Another thing that you can collect is different genres. Like this is a genre I got this in a lot, so it's not something I would normally collect, but it's something that people do collect, where people get into military. Like, you know, I know a lot of people who like military related comics or army related comics. And here's an example of a very affordable one. This is like I think I paid like $2 for it or something like that. It was not expensive, because it was in a lot of comics, and I paid like, I think it worked out to being $1 or $2 per comic. Um, you know, there was bigger books that I wanted in the lot, so this is like a bonus book in my opinion. But it's like Golden Age, kind of a cool book from the Golden Age, and yeah, just I don't know. I like finding these kind of interesting comics with cool covers. I mean, it's like this one's like got a pretty interesting cover to it. So if you like these kind of militaristic ones or war ones, definitely, you know, you can find things very affordably. Um, yeah, so those are some of the different genres you can go to, some of the different avenues. And I hope this helps. I hope this little tutorial, I don't know if it really is much of a tutorial, but is at least a way to get a sense of how to approach the Golden Age. Sometimes you just have to dive in. You got, you know, and set a budget. As long as you set a budget, and like, you should be fine. Like, you'll buy something, even if it's like a $5 book, and it's always going to be a $5 book. You've wasted $5. That's a cup of coffee. It's not a big deal. Okay, so that's the way I approach it. Just have fun with it. Okay, next question comes from K Munin. What do you think comics would look like today if the Comic Code Authority was never implemented? How do you think Fredric Wertham would react to anime? Okay, so in a weird way, the question kind of answers itself. One of the things that was happening during the golden age of comics was becoming the form of entertainment, much more so than books. People were moving away from books, and they were reading comics. Okay, so and a lot of the literary agencies, like, you know, book publishers, really hated that. They really felt like they were under pressure from the comic book industry, because you look at like all these early golden age books, and they had massive print runs. They were like literally millions of comics being produced per title, and it was crazy how many people were buying these things. And it wasn't just kids, it wasn't just boys, which is more the way comics are now. It was more everybody, just across the spectrum, like girls, boys, young adults. You know, everyone was reading comics, and it was a much more broad space, because there was a lot of variety within that space. They had good girl, they had horror, they had crime, they had superhero, they had all these different genres, and they weren't trying to appeal to everybody within the comics. They were trying to appeal to just, like, you know, individual groups, like whatever you liked. If you liked whatever, there was a comic for you. You know, there is some way that people might say that there was a bit of a difference, a bit of a weird thing with the Golden Age, though. One of the things that when the Golden Age first started, so I want to correct one thing before I get corrected in my comments. The books, if you read like Action 1 or New Funnies, or some of the crime ones, sometimes what you would see is it would be very similar to reading a newspaper. And what I mean by that is, in the newspapers, when they would have the funny section, they would have like Beetle Bailey mixed in with Spider-Man or Garfield. You know, like, you'd have like all these different genres all within the daily funnies. Well, comics had that when they first got started. It was only after Superman 1 that really changed. So that's the only caveat that I have to say to it, where, they were appealing to a more broad audience within each comic because they did have multiple genres in them. But for the most part, there was just such a variety of comics that anyone's genre, like, interests could be met through whatever comic. There was just enough variety. Whereas nowadays, we really don't have the level of variety that we did from the Golden Age. So if Wertham hadn't cracked down on it, because if you think about it, there was about 2,000 companies that were producing comics before Wertham. Before Wertham, wrote The Seduction of the Innocent, and we got the Comic Code Authority. After, there was only 200 companies that survived, and most of them were on the brink of failing even. So really what we see is like a big shift from the Golden Age where there's a lot of variety and real mass appeal to a very narrow focus. Comics really went from being appealing to everybody to appealing mainly to boys and more a younger generation. Things changed as, like, time progressed. The kids became older, so in order to appeal to those older kids, well, they made older comics. But the point is, like, comics really lost that variety. Anime has that variety. So I would think if comic code had never come into play, you would see comics looking very much like anime, having a lot of variety, appeal to very different, demographics in terms of how they create things. So what happens now, and part of the reason why I think the industry is failing now, is what they've done is because it got so narrow focused and niched after the Comic Code Authority, and even till to this day, it's had that residual effect. What's happened is you get comics like Spider-Man or whatever, and they're trying to appeal to multiple audiences, and then in the result not appealing to any of those audiences. So what if you try to appeal to everyone, sometimes you end up appealing to no one, and that's kind of the problem with comics nowadays, that rather than setting up new titles, and that's really what they should do, is set up new titles to appeal to different interest groups, then they could easily diversify in terms of their base of comics and really appeal to a greater audience. Well, that's what anime does. It has everything. It's very diverse in terms of the content, in terms of the storytelling, in terms of everything. And I would see that anime would be what comics would look like. Now, how would Fredric Wertham react to anime? Probably the same way he reacted to comics. A lot of the things in anime are very sexual. Like, we got fan service as a thing in anime. And you would see that hypersexualization as a corrupting influence. Anime is also very graphic in terms of violence. And that would be something that would be something that Wertham would hate. He would even probably hate anime more than the crime books, for example, because a lot of the time in anime, the ones committing the violence can be glorified, and that would definitely not appeal to Wertham. So so it'd be interesting. I think he would definitely have issues with anime. So yeah, those are, I don't know, hopefully that answers your question. There's so much more I could say about it. I could babble about that for hours, because I do love both anime and comics. So okay, the next question comes from Prentice Hamad. Any Dell Comics on the SOTI list? Or was it really Dell Comics are good comics? So one of the things that happened was Dell never adopted the Comic Code Authority. It called itself Good Comics. It didn't think that it needed to embrace the Comic Code Authority because it was producing comics generally geared to kids. However, Dell was not. It was not as good for Wertham as it perceived itself. So Wertham did had a couple Dell books on the list, and I'm going to show you them. And both of them actually very similar reasons for why they were on the list. First is Howdy Doody. This is a Dell comic, and it was on the SOTI list because of these guys, this guy here and this guy here. So you get the typical, tribal, boiling the silly, silly white guys in a pot. It's actually a bit of a trope. I always see it the opposite of way that most people see this. Most people see this, oh, you're being so racist against these poor black people in Africa. But I actually see it the other way around. I see it where the black people are getting one up on the stupid white people. But so I think this that's why Wertham hated this one, because it was depicting racial stereotypes, and he thought that was very wrong. So that was Howdy Doody number 5 or number 6. Howdy Doody number 6. And another one that made the list is this is 4-color 250, which is a Bugs Bunny. So we got racial stereotypes right there, a little tribal dude. And also it because it's geared towards kids. And if you read, if you ever watched Looney Tunes as a kid or read any of these comics, there's always a little bit of that typical like violence, like cartoon violence, where they, the dynamite blows up and you see like their face is all black because of the fact that it's exploded in their face. Nobody dies, nobody gets decapitated or blood spewing out of them, but it is violent. People are getting hit over the head with a mallet, or a safe is falling on their head for some reason, or a piano or something like that. So that is violence, and it's being geared towards kids. And the Wertham really didn't like that part of it, where you're teaching very violent acts to young children. So that's why this one made the list. So this is Bugs Bunny, or 4-color 250. So those were the two that made the list from Dell. So Dell couldn't escape it. Nobody could escape Wertham's wrath. Okay, so next question on the list is from Mike Swintel. Do you still buy coins? And if so, tell us what you purchased this year. So actually, I do still buy coins. My coin buying activity is very limited. I only buy really the Canadian sets that come out each year. So I'll show you what I buy. So here is the Canadian Canada 2023 set. And this is like an uncirculated set. And you got like all the different denominations. So in Canada, we have a toonie. That's a $2 coin. Then we have the loonie, which is a $1 coin. Then we have a quarter, nickel, and dime. And we no longer have a penny. So like in years past, there would be a penny year. But there's no more pennies. We don't have pennies anymore. So this is an uncirculated set with the Canadian coins. And then we got like Learn the Truth. Like this is how woke Canada is. We got Learn the Truth. We got Practice Reconciliation. So this is all about truth and wow, I can't speak today. Truth and Reconciliation Tribunal, which is based on false premises, but we'll not go too political today. You can ask me about it if you really want, but I can tell you the whole story. But yeah, so it's these sort of Truth and Reconciliation coins. So I'll buy whatever random coins that they come out with. I don't know. And then we got This is actually a coin from last year, coin set from last year, but it's the Queen one, and this is like the last year of the Queen. So these are the 2022 sets, and yeah, just like it also has a 50-cent piece coin in it, which is not really used anymore. We don't use the 50-cent coin anymore, but it is still included in the coin sets, which actually means that the 50-cent coin is often considered pretty rare because it's only available within the sets. So typically like dimes and quarters will have like millions produced, but 50-cent piece might have only less than 100,000 produced. So then we got the different sets. We got, what set is this one? This one is the specimen set. So the specimen set is really just like the regular uncirculated set or proof set, but it'll use like special dies. So when they strike the coin, they'll do it in a special way. So we got this one, and you'll see. They're kind of nice little sets, though. And it's similar. This one has a special coin in it, though. Like, I'm not sure if you can see it, but we'll pretend you can see it. There's a special coin. And it still has, even though it's the 2023 set, it still has the Queen. So you can see the Queen on the back. Next year, we'll have King Charles, I should say, King Charles on the back. So so you'll see that next year when the new sets come out. We'll have King Charles on them. Still used to the Queen idea. I haven't really gotten used to the fact that we don't have a Queen anymore. Keep on saying Queen instead of King. And then I also get like the special coins and the proof set. And so I'll show you the special coin. Usually kind of a cool little coin. This is a silver coin. And I don't know. This is Women in Science. Again, very woke country I live in. So yeah, Women in Science, Women in STEM. So Kathleen Kit Cole. Oh, sorry. This is not even Women in Science. I thought it was a microscope. This is Kathleen Kit Coleman. And she was like an early journalist, actually. I should have, had I been able to see it, I said totally the wrong thing. But she was an early female journalist and, a pioneer in the industry for women. So yeah, so that's that one. And we got one other thing that I'll buy every year is all the stamps. So you can buy like the complete collection of stamps. This is from last year, but I haven't gotten a new one for this year yet. But this will be the complete collection of Canadian stamps. And actually, I don't open them up. I leave them unopened. I don't know. I treat them almost like my comics, where I don't actually open them up. But it's like the complete collection. I have all the complete collections all the way back into the 70s. So I have pretty much all the stamps for Canada all the way back into the 70s. And then I actually collected stamps when I was a kid as well. But I didn't like stamps. They were too fidgety, and I was always like, didn't really like that. But I collected stamps. I have my stamps go back like to the early like Victorian stamps. So like about 100 years, a little bit more than 100 years, 100 to 150 years old stamps. So yeah, so that's what I got. Those are my collection for this year. I didn't buy much. Like, it's not like comics where you see these massive boxes and I'm picking up cool things. But it at least keeps me where I'm not getting behind on the coins or stamps that are being produced each year. So I'm sticking with like having like every year covered in my collection. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit random with the coins at the end, but I hope you enjoyed it anyways. If you have a question that you would like me to answer, just put it in the comments below and I will do my best to answer it. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.